We envision a future where individuals are empowered to think critically and creatively, where citizens become agents of change by promoting self governance, co creation, and bottom up approaches. Welcome to our podcast.
Hello there, this is Manorak. And before we go into this episode, there's two things I wanted to bring to your attention. First of all, we are breaking our bi weekly pattern to bring you this episode earlier. And this is because our guest today has been arrested for his advocacy um, regarding the polluting practices of the tourism industry on Aruba. And this does mean that instead of this episode coming on the 25th of October, we are sending it out today. And that does mean that there will not be an episode for the 25th of October. So we are skipping that one and we are coming back then in November. Um, and also, yeah, the 25th of October is his birthday. And I first, he was excited that it will come out on the 25th of October on his birthday. But I much rather have him free and walking around by by the time it's his birthday than have to wait to bring out this podcast because of the just the technicalities of it being a bi-weekly podcast. And the second thing is that we were having a technical difficulties at the beginning of this episode, about like 15 minutes in. After that, we switched to other computers. So if you do have an issue with the cracking at the beginning of the episode, know that it will get better about 15 minutes in. So I suggest you skip forward and still listen to this because it is a very interesting topic and very good points were raised by our guest Nigel. And yeah, without any further ado, I'll let you listen to this interview. Thank you for tuning in.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
welcome back to the Creation Podcast. Today I have with me Nigel Maduro. And
Mhm.
yeah, I usually just dive right in. And so I'm gonna ask you, who are you and what do you do?
Hi, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. So my name is Nigel. Who am I? I am a mixed race indigenous person of Aruba. Um, what do I do or what's my background? Well, yeah, I am currently nomadic. I am free flow. I am everything and anything. And yeah, I currently finished all my studies, so I'm just really just living around, just looking, trying to see what's my next opportunity. I have a background in human resources, so I have a bachelor's of arts in international human resource management. I have experience working in environmental organizations such as Greenpeace, New Zealand. I also worked in a sustainability consultancy firm in Rotterdam, and I have a master's of science in strategic leadership towards sustainability. Not only that, but I am also a certified entrepreneur in emerging economies. So I have different backgrounds in different disciplines regarding social entrepreneurship, but also sustainability and ecology, and with a specialization in indigenous peoples and conservation. So That's a little bit of my background. Um, yeah, I'm 27 years of age. I am currently in Aruba right now, so yeah, just having a little vacation back home in motherland, and yeah, I'm super excited to be part of this. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining. So,
Mhm.
yeah, of course, we started talking because we have similar backgrounds in terms of like the interest in nature conservation and the whole climate action and also the indigenous part. Um, and recently, I saw you were raising concerns about some issues that were happening on your home island of Aruba. So, would you like to tell us a bit more about what's happening?
Yeah, so I arrived in Aruba about 2 months ago, so on 17th of August approximately. So um and I already knew what I was setting myself up for because I haven't been back to Aruba for 5 years. So like when I arrived, I was only posting like paradise content or stuff with me just going to the beach a lot or going in nature and like having good times or like spending time with my family and posting it, so all the happy stuff. But really I've been holding back on the realities of what we're facing in Aruba. And yeah, so with my own eyes, I saw a lot of changes happening around Aruba in terms of nature and also how people are being treated. And what I tried to do during my onset of my trip, so during the last period of my trip, I put my foot down and I was like, actually, no, like, let me, I've been showing everyone the happy side of Aruba. We label it one happy island. But let me show you what's actually happening because no one is courageous enough to say anything about, yeah, the current situation in Aruba. So I started posting videos and pictures to demonstrate what I was seeing with with my own eyes. So I started posting pictures about what's happening to our nature, the damages, what's happening to um, yeah, just the people and what they're saying as well. Make it very qualitative and also really shedding a light on neocolonialism in regards to the hotel and tourism industry. And yeah, there were quite some alarming videos and pictures that I posted that I was like, this we're losing balance with how we used to live. We we lost touch with our indigenous identity, roots and ways of living. And I was like, okay, um, how can I shed a light on this? And I started posting on social media, mainly Instagram and Facebook, about, yeah, these videos about, yeah, these neo-colonial practices that were happening around Aruba, lost of land, damages of ecosystem services, uh, yeah, just damaging our livelihood as well. So it really shed a light on that, and I got a lot of attention, a lot of views, a lot of people reacting and getting concerned, and also like, it's very controversial what I started posting, and people were very, yeah, people were very alarmed because they thought it was just, same old Aruba. But
Mm.
because I have a fresh, brand new eyes, because I didn't come to Aruba for 5 years, and in my head, I left it the way it was. When I came back, it was just even more eye opening what was happening around the island. And I was like, okay, I have to show people. I have to show people this. So yeah, that's mainly what started happening. And yeah, we could talk a little deeper about what I saw as well. So
Yeah, yeah, please do. First, before we go there, I wanted to ask the reactions that you got were those from the people now living still on Aruba or from the diaspora?
diaspora, mainly the diaspora, the people of Aruba, they were concerned because there were some things that I posted that they did not know about. That they were like, "Oh, this is happening right in front of my nose, and I don't even see it because I've been living here for so many years." So I became numb or like blind to it, or it was just like, you know, yeah, just like in their face, but they didn't see it. And the main reactions came from the people from the diaspora. They were really concerned because they were like, what is happening? Like, what is happening to our island? We thought we left it, you know, in a nice, safe state, but it's getting worse and worse. So yeah, main reactions were people from the diaspora, but also on Facebook, I've been also posting about that, and people that have been living in Aruba for many years, they were also concerned. But the main concern were for like from also the tourists. They were also very concerned about what was happening because they come to Aruba and they only see the touristic sites, but they don't see what's actually happening inside of Aruba. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's the common theme within the Caribbean because we're almost
Mhm.
like it's almost like we're living in a theme park. Like you have to be on and touristic the whole time. Like I remember
Mhm.
this period in my puberty that it was very confusing to me. We had
Mhm.
this mascot, and later someone pointed out to me that it was hella racist mascot.
Mhm.
It was a mama smile. It was like this. Like you have to be smiling 24/7 um as someone living that's not possible. It's not human. Like you're living there.
No.
You're not like
Who wakes up smiling? Let me just. Who wakes up in the morning and puts a big smile on their face? I'm like,
yeah,
whoa, that's.
but it's like it was almost the message that I got, my young brain got, is that I'm not allowed to have feelings other than happiness. I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be happy because I'm living on this beautiful island and tourists are coming here and paying a lot to come and see
Mhm.
us, and they don't deserve to see angry people
Mhm.
that live
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
like as if they're not,
Yeah.
they never get angry at wherever they come from. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's one of the things that's almost traumatic in a sense for me that I had to kind of like unlearn that I don't have to be happy all the time. So I don't have to like smile
Mhm.
all the time.
Mhm.
That I've worked on it so much now that I start noticing when people are giving me fake smiles that I'm like, whoa, is that what I
No,
was
no,
doing?
not that energy. Not here.
Yeah.
Not here.
Yeah. So it is, and I'm curious because it even for us, um, it's a battle to find, or us on Bonaire, it's a battle to find a balance between the whole tourism thing, because it is the main source of economy for us and for most Caribbean islands, and I do think that because of that, the government gives a lot of priority to it, like too much priority. I get
Mhm.
its importance, but there's like an obsession almost um with that tourism, and then you forget your own people that are living there, or to the detriment of your own people that are living there.
Yeah.
And even for us that have we have a nature conservation organization
Mhm.
that's actually pretty good, but as I grew older, I started realizing, well, a lot of the conservation they are doing is for the tourism. Again,
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
might not even be um, in their interest to
Mhm.
really, stop or yeah, dampen the tourism. So do you have like a nature conservation organization on Aruba?
Yes, we actually do. It's called Fundación Parque Nacional Aricoc, FNPA or FPNA, one of those. So it's called Aricoc, Aricoc Park. And yes, they started establishing some new rules and regulations around Aruba, which is historic because it has never been done before. Certain areas, they did conservation sites or marine parks that you are not allowed to go in or that you have to pay to go in, or also, um, yeah, that they put extra laws and regulations and policies there to protect it. um, but yeah, I'm also wondering like to protect from who precisely? And that is the question where I'm like, okay, are we protecting it from our own people or are we protecting it from tourists or outsiders that come to Aruba and don't know how to live with the nature?
Mhm.
And that brings me back to I'm tying it back to what you said about the constantly being happy. Our logo, our slogan of Aruba is one happy island.
Ah,
But in reality, who are we happy for? Are we putting on this mask, this facade for the tourists? And the tourists are causing the most damage in Aruba, the industry. The industry itself. I'm not blaming the individuals, I'm blaming the industry. And the industry is causing damage to our nature, which is why we need nature conservation, is because it's going away. It's degrading right before our very eyes. And I've been seeing it with all these touristic activities and all these hotels, that it is degrading right in front of my eyes. And it's it's quite sad because yeah, the national park, the national conservation park, they're really making efforts to safeguard and expand some of the areas, and really enforcing laws and regulations and presenting new laws and regulations that are updated, because some of them are not updated. And because they're not updated, loopholes can be found, which hotels and tourism industry could exploit.
yeah.
So, long story short, yes, we do have nature conservation, but why? Because of all these practices that are happening around Aruba. So you have to understand the entire bigger picture. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And what are some of these practices that you saw, that you started highlighting?
So what happened was, when I went back, the first thing that I noticed was loss of land. Four new giant hotels are being built, and they are being built in front of the beaches of Aruba. So like they're purposely buying the land in front of the beaches to
Mhm.
put a giant infrastructure of those hotels there. And you could see that they are continuously selling more land, like these real estate agents, these giant property management areas, people that are selling the land as well.
Yeah.
They are selling it and marketing it towards foreign investors. So they come and buy the land because they have the money and funds to do it. They have the finances. Meanwhile, locals don't. Locals do not have that type of funding or money to buy the land because it's already expensive as it is.
Mm-hmm.
So they buy the land and they start constructing in front of these beach areas. And little do you know, we have no private beaches on Aruba. We have it's against the law if you put a private beach or if you block access to the beaches.
Yeah.
But is that really the case? Because what I noticed as well, and what was happening to me being there, beaches are being privatized without us knowing. So they are purposely blocking off the access to the beach, which is one, illegal, and two, ethically wrong, because the natives, the indigenous peoples that live in Aruba, we can't access our own beaches.
Mm-hmm.
So I have multiple videos of security guards stopping me right in front of my tracks because I am going through the private property to
Mm-hmm.
get to the beaches.
Yeah.
And in our law, it's allowed to go to those beaches. So they are breaking the law, but also making us lose land and buying more land. And it's just systematically happening over and over.
Yeah.
So that is one of the main issues that I saw, that we are losing places that are ours. One of the most alarming things that I saw, which is like one of my in the first week that when I was there, I went to a beach that I used to go to every week when I was a little kid. I learned how to swim at that beach. There's a water tower like in the ocean, and you used to swim back and forth or like go on the water tower and then jump off of it.
Yeah.
That is like a childhood core memory of mine. I learned how to swim there. I used to go with family there almost every week. And now that I came back to Aruba and I want to revisit all those memories, I just look up and then there's just this giant, monstrous hotel being built there and blocking off where I used to sit with my family, which is like underneath a quihi tree. And for me, it was like I'm I'm losing this. Parts of my memories are just gonna be constructed on top of, and I'm just losing my land. I'm losing my memories. right in front of my eyes, and the next generation will not get to experience what I experienced. And that really broke my heart because you could see that they are blocking off the beach, but not completely. However, it took a big chunk off of it
Yeah.
that is eroding the land as well. So they're constructing on top of a beach, and it'll obviously affect the white sand and erode the land. And slowly but surely, you could see around Aruba that the oceans are also eating the land because of the erosion happening from these hotels. So it's not only the systematic degrading of the ocean eroding the land, but it's also the selling, the overselling, the
Mhm.
overconstructing. So it's like a double feedback, positive feedback loop. So one leads to another, and it's like a constant vicious cycle, and it keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
So loss of land is one. There's also pollution, pollution that we are seeing around Aruba. Palm Beach used to be the most beautiful beach on Aruba. What they name it Palm Beach because there was just palm trees there, and it just vast white sand everywhere. It used to look like paradise
Mhm.
before the first hotel was constructed in Aruba. So, but now if you go there, um, so there's the hotel strip where the high-rise hotels are, and if you notice, if you sit there and just observe, you see all these touristic activities happening, all these boat rides or these jet rides. I forgot what they're called in English, like the water jet skis.
Yeah.
Um, if you keep walking all the way down the strip of Palm Beach, and if you enter the ocean where there are no hotels around Fisherman's Hut, it's more down the strip, and if you enter the water, the sand is not sand anymore. It's sludge.
Yeah.
It's sludge from all the touristic activities and all the hotels that's being built there, and it's going downstream onto sacred lands. So you could see the entire Palm Beach. The sand is sludgy, it's muddy, or it's dirty, and it smells disgusting. And I filmed that too with my bare hands. I grabbed it and squeezed it just so people know how sludge-like it is. And not only that, not only the touristic activities, but also because we have so many hotels being built and so many tourists coming and get overcrowding the areas. It's also like plastic pollution that happens there, or people just throw stuff there because we have a lack of trash cans around these hotel areas. So they just throw stuff in the ocean, and it was very symbolic because I remember my first week there walking down the strip just so I could observe and see what is happening. All the tourists are sitting on the beach chairs just enjoying their vacation, their paradise, their little, getaway. Meanwhile, me, someone visiting back abroad, my homeland, my country, I was the only one picking up trash just in front of the beaches. Meanwhile, everyone was just staring and then doing nothing, or they weren't even acknowledging the fact that the beach was that dirty. Because for them, it's like, oh, I'm in Aruba.
Yeah.
It's paradise. Meanwhile, I have to pick up after them one by one in front of them and get my hands dirty and bunch of stuff. So it's also the physical like materials that's being dumped in there. So there's loss of land, there's pollution because of touristic activities, there's pollution because of, trash and waste being just thrown
Mhm.
out there. But there's also the fact that these hotels are so big and our infrastructure for waste management, so sewage systems, they we don't have the right infrastructure for that mass volume of hotels and tourism. So all that waste just goes up to our plant, our waste management plant, which is located near Palm Beach and other areas around Aruba. But the big one is in Palm Beach, and that just it's just a lot of sewage water, and they don't know what to do with it. So it's just being dumped back in the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
And I've caught videos of it like from the source being from the hotel, and I'm tracing it back, and you see the water is just muddy and foamy and sewage like, and it smells very bad, and there's like insects flying around there, and it's not a natural waterway that how it used to be. It's polluted by these sewage, uh, overload of sewage, from the tourist and hotel industry, and it's just being dumped back in our ocean, and it's obviously a public health issue and also an environmental issue. So people don't understand that when you are polluting our oceans, you are directly polluting us as well. So
Yeah.
you're damaging our health. So there's multiple areas where I showed that the pollution is going straight onto our ocean. The sewage system is just directly connected to our ocean. And it's happening right in front of people's eyes, but it's also very hidden. Some of them are very hidden. Like in broad daylight, you can't see them, but unless you go in and go out of your way and go in the waterway,
Mm,
you see it, and it's like very alarming. So that's really happening in terms of the hotel in terms of pollution. But there's also the racial profiling
right.
of natives, of locals. So I was mentioning earlier about land loss and public access to beaches. The minute you enter a hotel, all eyes are on you because they already could tell that you are a local.
Yeah.
Maybe by the way I look, maybe by the way I dress, maybe by the way I walk or talk or anything. But they could tell that you are local. So they come up to you straight and then kick you out of the hotel areas. They're like, you can't do that. And you have to stop them and remind people that you have laws protecting you,
Hmm.
that you are allowed to access the beaches. No beaches are private, all beaches are public in Aruba. And also, they cannot block or privatize entryways to the beaches.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of like those security guards don't know that. But you as a local should know that. You as a native person should know that access to beaches cannot be blocked. It's against the law. And there's a lot of these things that are happening, and I have multiple footages of people just stopping me in my tracks, and then you could hear them say he's local, or
Mm, mm,
racially profiling, say, and then they say like, oh, you're walking with a handbag. Majority of the theft that happens around here are because of locals. And I'm like, I just want to get to my beach, dude. I just wanna soak in the sun. What
yeah.
is the issue?
Like,
So
yeah.
there's a lot of ecological and social problems that come with these hotel and tourism industries, and it's just getting worse and worse because there's more hotels being built and there's more tourists coming,
Yeah.
which means more pollution, more land loss, more physical degradation of it, more privatization, more gentrification. So all these things just keep on
Adding
happening.
up, and it's yeah, this big pile of
Yeah.
yeah, and there's so much to unpack there that like as you're talking, I'm like, where do I even start?
Yeah, exactly. So you can see it's a very complex issue
Yeah.
because this one thing that we're so dependent on and that is good for the economy
Hmm.
is actually bad for people and the environment.
Yeah.
And it's like, did we did we lose touch with who we are? Did we what is happening? And it's so complex and so interconnected.
Yeah.
And people don't know that we are stuck in this old unsustainable system that is that used to benefit. We used to benefit from it, but now we are not benefiting it from it anymore. It's not sustainable
Yeah.
development.
And I can even like I even question to what degree it's even economically beneficial anymore, except for giving a few people jobs, because it's a double-edged sword, as you said. Like, yes, it brings or in the past brought some kind of like stable income. But as if I can compare again to Bonaire, the fact of the tourism being there and being such a vital part of the economy, it puts stress on the infrastructure that's already not great. There's a lack of policy in terms of how far this industry can grow. And because of that, it's actually putting stress on the supply because I don't know about Aruba, but
Bonaire imports about 90% of the food.
Mhm.
And because there's so much stress on the supply, because these tourists are people, they're gonna come there, they
Mhm.
want to eat, and usually
Yeah.
they over consume as well because you're on vacation, you want to eat extra, you want to
Mhm.
eat good.
Mhm.
So they're getting the best, like the best stock that is coming in.
Mhm.
And it's making the supply that is the limited supplies that do come in is making it more expensive also for the local people. It's making the land more expensive for the local people
Mhm.
to buy. Like Monaire, I'm happy that I have a house that I can inherit and I
Yeah.
have to fight. Um, that's why I decided to just move back because my
Mhm.
parents don't see that I can manage it being from here. So I was like, wait
Yeah.
a minute, I'm coming because you're not
Mhm.
selling.
Yeah. Yeah. Precisely.
It's at a very good location that if we sell it, we're never gonna get that opportunity back to have
Yeah.
such a location. Um, and let alone if you're gonna buy a new plot of land on Bonaire, where and how much is it gonna cost? Because it has gotten so much more expensive. And for us, we don't have these a lot of most hotels are not really high rise. At least I haven't seen if I
Oh
can
yeah.
compare to Aruba, like the really high rise hotels that you kind of see in Miami.
Mhm.
Which I
Mhm.
bring this connotation because I know this lady from Aruba that lives on Bonaire, and years ago, I'm talking about more than 10 years ago, she was bragging that Aruba is like the little Miami, and I was like, I don't know if
Mm.
that's something you want to be proud of.
Weird flex, but
Yeah.
okay. I mean, it's.
It's
I don't think we want to be that, but okay.
yeah, and
Mm.
that's like it's such a small island. Like I think
Yeah.
we forget how small, and especially I think if we're talking about the ABCSSS, Aruba is one of the most known out of all of us.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
people don't because of how big it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Name wise, people
Mhm.
can't really fathom actually how small the island actually is.
Yeah, Aruba our name is big, but we
Yeah.
have a limited land and water, so it's just and we keep selling them. And like you said, there's this culture of tourists that come to Aruba that want to spend and overconsume and all these things. It's just crazy to me because, like you said, the thing about the lady that described Aruba as like Miami is that good? Do we want to be Miami, or do we want to keep Aruba how our ancestors left it behind for us? It's like for me, I'm thinking of the way that people are pushing the just the way of living. So
Mm,
the people before me, let's just say before the hotels started in the 60s, maybe let's go 50s.
yeah.
So maybe people from the age of like grandfathers or grandparents, grandmothers, they lived in Aruba where there were no hotels. So that was their baseline. And then they saw the couple hotels coming in. They were like, "I actually, we're gonna get income from this." They
Mm,
weren't high rise. They were just like low rise hotels.
yeah.
They saw an opportunity. They were like, "Okay, maybe we can sell a part of our land so we can get some money to sustain us because you know we used to have an oil industry, oil and gas industry, like just crude oil selling, and that was already an environmental disaster and a lot of human trafficking and social issues.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
then when that closed, we had to quickly think of something else. So people from that generation were like, okay, let's slowly start with the system. Let's start with this business idea, business strategy of making Aruba a touristic site.
Mhm.
So that already was like already a switch in what happened in when we went to one unsustainable system to another because we already started viewing Aruba as a landscape, a touristic area,
Mm,
rather than a country, rather than an island that's living, rather than an island that has ecosystems, rather than an island that people, our livelihood is affected by the nature. So, they started building the hotel one by one, and it was like low rise, low rise, low rise, and then the first high rise hotel came, and it was like, oh, okay, like and that was the generation before me, maybe Gen X.
Mhm,
Maybe they were the boomers that they were like, okay, slowly we're gonna get there, and then the Gen X, more high rise hotels started coming up, more it became bigger, bigger. Palm Beach was like the area where they sold the most land. And you see all these giant hotels, which is very intimidating as you
mhm.
walk by it, and you're noticing right before your very eyes that this is taking over. This is the new form of colonialism,
Yeah.
and people don't understand that. So that the baseline for Gen X is like, oh, there's high-rise hotels now. We are gonna thrive even more. We're gonna thrive even more.
Mhm, mhm.
And then the next generation is like, okay, we grew up in a weird situation where like, okay, hotels are normal. It's keeping our economy, safe. It's stabilizing it, whatever. But then more started happening, more. They kept building more, so we are losing more land, and also we don't have enough space to put more. So then now you have to like open your eyes and say, is growth really development?
Mhm.
Because we're confusing two things,
Yeah.
growth and development. It's not developing anymore. We're overdeveloped.
Yeah.
Can't grow it anymore. Like that is a model that used to benefit us back then, but now they keep adding more. And it's like, okay, from low rise hotels, a lot of low rise hotels to like a lot of high rise hotels. And then our generation has to experience a lot of all inclusive high
Oh,
rise hotels, which is like an extra step where they get everything at the hotel. So they don't invest in the local economy. They don't
yeah.
buy from restaurants. They don't, it, everything is already provided for them. So they get the full Paradise Caribbean
Mm.
experience.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not benefiting from it, but this is our baseline.
Yeah, and
So
then by being in an all-inclusive thing, like, you're enclosed essentially in there, and you don't see all of the things happening outside. You're like, "Oh,
yeah,
just focus over here."
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
the red
It's
herring
crazy.
idea that it's like yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's crazy to me because people are like, yes, put more all-inclusive hotels because more money is being generated there because
Yeah,
they and I'm like, not necessarily. It doesn't invest in the local economy and invest all the money goes back to the hotel and then the hotel owners,
yeah,
and it's just like
and then outside
the
of Aruba probably because 'cause they're not even living
exactly,
there.
exactly. So United Nations reported that 80%, like, so the Caribbean is the most tourist dependent region in the world.
Mm,
We are very dependent on tourism. And it's scary because all of our money comes from them.
yeah,
But is that the case? Because United Nations reported that 80% of the money generated within the Caribbean ends up leaving the Caribbean.
mm,
So
mhm,
then there's 20%. So majority of hotels are the ones benefiting from it.
yeah,
So again, you see it again that it's like neo-colonialism that these hotels are the one exploiting our land, polluting it,
yeah,
taking more, and then take leaving with most of the money. Meanwhile, we are here with 20% that has to be gone through the government first, which
yeah,
is a very corrupt issue that is like a whole different topic. And then it goes trickle down to organizations, oligarchs, all of those that
mm,
are around the government, and then the little bits, the little scraps
yeah,
go to the locals. And it's just again back to the thing about how people view it as like economic growth. It's like, yeah, we do get jobs from it, but what type of jobs do we get?
yeah,
Like, if you see organizational charts around all the hotels, the people at the bottom, the people with the minimum loan salaries are the locals. Majority are just locals. The people in middle management, upper management, board of directors, CEOs, they're just non-locals.
mm,
So you can see again, it's like we are at the short end of the stick yet again. socially, with in terms of labor, yes, it does bring a lot of jobs, but are the jobs sustainable? Are they worth it? Are
Yeah.
will they help us with making ends meet at the end of the month? I don't think so. So,
No, especially
it's
not
so
with those
complex.
prices. Not with
Yeah,
those
exactly,
prices.
exactly. It's so complex. It's so
Yeah,
complex.
there's so
Yeah.
much that went in my head just from that. First of all, it feels like kind of the legacy of slavery,
Yeah.
in the sense that, as you said, the neo-colonialism, it's like new slavery, almost like, yes, you're kind of paid, but really, are you really at the end of the day?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then because of that, I then had an understanding, which it will be a bit of a sidetrack from what we were talking about,
Don't
because
worry, don't worry.
my friend the other day, she's from Trinidad, and she was talking about maybe changing jobs or something, and she said, "I'm not gonna work in a hotel because it's beneath me." And I was shocked to my core because I worked in a hotel here in Amsterdam, which was fine, but now as we're talking, I don't think I could compare how you're treated working here in a hotel in Amsterdam as opposed to working in a hotel in the Caribbean, because there you are literally treated like you are beneath the
Mhm,
the
mhm,
people there, your
mm,
servants. And another reason why I say this reminded me of like the legacy of slavery is because of the profiling, as you were saying, of local people and how that takes place in Bonaire. Is indeed that the we also don't have we're not supposed to have private beaches,
mm,
but you have there's a lot of rich people, usually Europeans, usually Dutch, because it is
mm,
Dutch island, that come there and then um, it's similar to what the high-rise hotels are doing, buy up land at the beach. Some actually build houses like on the literal beach that when there's like a little bit of waves, like it goes through their house, and I'm
gone.
like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, like, it's crazy to me. It's crazy to
Yeah.
me. Like, ugh.
The other thing is that simple example with the goats, that goat is a staple meat on the island, and then in like the national park, local people are like being like for lack of a better word, prosecuted for wanting to get the goat meat, um which is insane because these other um rich people and rich companies, like you have the Corendon Hotel now, which is the most
Oh.
controversial one on Bonaire because they put like fake sand and they were supposed to build a wall so it doesn't go into the water, but they didn't. So it's been an ongoing battle. Like the government has been much more lenient with them,
Yeah.
and the local people trying to feed themselves with some goats. Like,
It's like your priority is elsewhere. Your focus should be elsewhere. Why are you targeting the locals for eating goat? Meanwhile, your land is being degraded by it's wild to me.
yeah,
These things also happen to Aruba where I'm like, people, look at the bigger picture. Look at the bigger picture. Look around us. Why are we? What is happening? Like
yeah,
these practices that are happening, we're letting them happen for the sake of like economy. Meanwhile, it's just terrible. Like it's so many things just go wrong with it that I there's so many arguments why they are not good, and yet you're still doing it because we're still part of the status quo of
mm,
it's good for us, good for economy, it's good for jobs, livelihood. Meanwhile, none of those are true,
yeah,
really. So it's just it's crazy because you said something about the fake sand
mm,
being put on the beaches. Well, we also have similar cases like that too. Remember when I said way earlier about the erosion of the hotels when they built a hotel on top of white sand, the white sand around gets eroded,
Yeah.
which leads to the ocean eating the land as well, taking back what it's. So it's happening around Aruba where there's like this one all-inclusive hotel. I'll say the name, DVDV and Tamarain all-inclusive. There's one specifically at Casa del Mar.
Mm-hmm.
If you go there, they put giant sandbags on top of the beach to block it from eroding more sand. And I'm like, okay, so one, where did you get the sand from? Where did you get the sand from? Where did you dig it from?
Yeah.
And two, if you're preventing it from being eroded, then maybe you should, the call is coming from inside the house. Maybe you should like give back the land
Yeah.
because the reason why it's being eroded is because of the hotels. And the same hotels are putting giant sandbags there because they're trying to prevent the erosion. Meanwhile, the problem is really themselves. You
Yeah.
know, the solutions is really to give back the land because that's the only way that we could like, stop erosion from happening. So it's crazy. It's nuts. And when I told you about where does it, where is the sand coming from? Where are you finding sand? And I also looked around Aruba for other unsustainable practices and other things that are connected to the hotel and tourism industry. And I found multiple hidden areas around Aruba, and also around like specific conservation areas and sites on Aruba where they are systematically digging giant holes, and from that material they're making like the material to create these hotels.
Yeah.
So they're doing that to create the pavements or construction things for the hotels,
Mm-hmm.
or also the sand to put there in front of the beach. So as you can see, like these hotels are also causing giant holes all over Aruba, and I mapped that out too. I put like different dots where it's at, and it's getting worse and worse, and giant holes. And I'm like, this is physical degradation of our land as well. You're just extracting stuff from the earth's crust and just using it to build more hotels, which will lead to more land erosion. And it's like it's
Make it make
so
sense.
it's so like please, it's so interconnected and like so like if you can map out the system and it's like a machine.
Yeah.
It's like all the cogs in the wheel are just turning wrong. And it's just like leading to one problem here, one problem there. You're connecting this and it's still a problem there. So it's like the entire system as a whole, it's flawed. It's not helping us anymore.
Do you also have an issue with like cruise ships?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So alarmingly, we get a lot of tourists coming through cruise ships, and they come in for 1 day or maybe two or maybe
Yeah.
even three, and then they leave. Fun. You get to see Aruba, beautiful. You get to see just a glimpse of it, so maybe you can return later. But then let's really dive deep into it. So the areas where the cruise ship stop is very close to Surfside Beach, which is like an area where there's like little tiny fishies, really cute fishes,
Uh,
and you see local fishermen. Like I caught a video of a local fisherman throwing his net there, like a native person, and just grabbing all the fishies and about to feed his family.
mm,
And in the distance, you can see the cruise ship there, and I'm like, okay, let me inspect even more. Let me just double check if the water is actually healthy or the water is like not polluted. If you scoop the sand again is sludge like. It's dirty, it's smelly, and it's because of all the cruise ships
yeah.
that's happening in the distance. So we are eating the pollution from these cruise ships. So that is one thing that we are also affected because it's our food source
Yeah.
that we bring to our families. But not only that is like I found this alarming fact about Aruba is so After the cruise ship goes all around the Caribbean,
Mm-hmm.
they collect all, the waste and junk and sewage and stuff. And then typically the last point, because we're on the southern Caribbean,
Mm-hmm.
last point is typically Aruba. So what they do is they just leave all the waste, leave all the sewage in Aruba. And it's crazy because there's like reports of this happening, that like it's not regulated. Why are we the dumping ground for all the
Yeah.
Caribbean? Like we are the one that's collecting all the waste.
Yeah.
It's not even ours, first of all. Second, it's the tourists that are on the ship. It's like, yes, you're visiting our island for 1, 2, maybe even like 4 hours.
Yeah, a few hours they stay sometimes. Yeah.
And so, but the damage left behind for that 4 hours that you stay in Aruba, it's generations,
Yeah.
because we have to fix the waste management problem that comes from these cruise ships that are always coming in. Like on a weekly basis, there's like multiple cruise ships coming in, dumping their stuff, polluting the ocean where we eat from.
Yeah.
So you see, it's like just more and more. It's
Yeah.
scary. It's really
Yeah.
scary.
It's I was watching a documentary, I think it was last week. Um, can't remember the exact name, but it was talking about the tourism and how it looked at different places all over the world. And it was talking about these issues, and it basically mentions that first of all, no one really owns the tourism industry, and it's been one of the industries that really have been left unchecked in terms of its
Hmm.
environmental impact.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and because it's been left unchecked for so long, it's become
Hmm.
kind of this monster of environmental issues. And I'm not gonna lie, I wanted, like when I was younger, I wanted to go on a cruise ship because there's some kind of romanticization of going on it.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but definitely international development studies ruined me in terms of
yeah. Yeah, yes.
I know
Yeah,
too much
open your
for my own
eyes.
good.
Just
Yeah.
yeah, it just open your eyes even more. You're like,
Yeah.
what is this?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
in that sense, I totally agree that ignorance is bliss. And
Very much.
sometimes I wish
Uh,
I could be ignorant, but I unfortunately that's not the path that was
yeah,
allotted
yeah,
to me in this lifetime. I'm
yeah.
very much awake and I see I see the things. Uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, because I see the things, I do wonder like how do we stop this? How do we like get to a point where we're not one so dependent on tourism, that tourism worldwide actually starts being checked and actually starts taking responsibility for its pollution. That and one of the issues also that the documentary mentioned is that um, it's so polluting because all of us want to go to the same places around the same time of the year.
Hmm. It's
Um,
crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so that would really mention that as one of the issues, and um, yeah, it's like how can one even start solving such a
So
wicked problem?
yeah, because yeah, it is a wicked problem. The way you describe it is very wicked. It's very complex. There's so many interconnections in between. But I could give like maybe four things that we could do, and I might, digress just
Oh, good.
slightly when I'm going to each one of those, but I'll come back to them. So
Okay, fine.
the first one is who is benefiting, who is benefiting from tourism
Mm-hmm.
and hotels? Who? So then you have to trace back, where does the money go? Where does the majority of the money go?
Yeah.
So our Minister of Public Health and Tourism, he posted on Facebook once that 4.2 billion Aruban florins gets generated from tourism.
Wow.
Where does it go? What? Where does it get distributed? And yes, that's a lot of money, but where does it go? And it's crazy because, if I have to go down to it, it's really a corruption scheme.
Mhm.
And I've been trying to speak up about this more and more about how corruption happens and how these hotel deals get signed
Mm.
because of people in power, because of the ministers and all those stuff. They get a say in it. They can give the green light, and also they could buy stocks
Yeah.
or shares within that hotel. So they are the first ones to be like, I want more money.
Mhm.
If I get this, I will keep getting more money for years to come.
Yeah.
So they're benefiting from it. Plus, also, for example, the Minister of Tourism and Public Health, of course, he wants more tourists. Of course, he wants more tourists because he's doing a good job.
Yeah.
He is benefiting from it. And I'll digress just slightly. It's because like also he is the son of the ex prime minister. So you can see a little nepotism in it too. So they created this system where they will keep benefiting from it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the locals, they don't get much. There's also human trafficking happening in most of the hotels that's being constructed. The construction workers, the engineers, all those things,
Yeah.
they're being trafficked right before our very eyes.
Oh.
No, who is benefiting from this?
Yeah.
Nobody. So locals, neither locals or immigrants that they import to build these hotels are benefiting from it.
Mhm.
So the people in power, we have to find a way to like get the money out of their pockets, which is a whole different conversation and a whole probably a different podcast, which another specialist could talk about because I could go on and talk about corruption for hours, but I'm not that educated in it.
Mm.
I'm not that I'm very vocal about it and see and I could paint out the system,
Yeah.
but I don't know how to stop it either. So there's that. Just
Mhm.
remove the money and power from them because they are benefiting the most from it.
Yeah.
How do we stop? Another thing is like, okay, so that was one. The
Mhm.
people in power, who is benefiting from it? Like the government, obviously, and their nepotism circle.
Yeah.
That's one. So we just have to remove their power, remove their money, and equally distribute it to places that is, you know, people that need it, places that need it, organizations that benefit more from it, like stuff like these. The second thing is we have this very flawed tax system. They call it tax holiday in Aruba.
Mhm. Yeah.
Tax holiday is when, they sign a deal that they want to buy a plot of land on Aruba to build a hotel in front of a beach, for example.
Yeah.
When they are done constructing, the government created this tax system that basically says that they get tax free for 10 years. They do not pay any taxes for 10 years. So they are not
Yeah.
investing in local economy. So there's 10 years of that. After those hotels are done with those 10 years, either they sell the property and a new hotel comes in, and then they get another 10-year tax free
Wow.
holiday. So
That's so
that you see the flaw. You see the flaw,
yeah.
right? So they get another 10-year tax free holiday.
Yeah.
Or, and I've seen it around Aruba multiple times, they just change their name. They
Mm.
change the hotel names. So technically they get another 10-year tax free. And it's like, what? Because I've seen like hotels, for example, I forgot what the name was because it changed so many times. Now it's called Concord. No, they changed it again. Either Barcelo or some. They changed it so many times that I can't keep track of who they are now. Like, were you Holiday Inn? No, you weren't. You changed to Barcelo. Were you Barcelo? No, you changed to Concord.
Oh my
It's
god.
like, so they're getting
Yeah.
it. You see how flawed the system is. So we
Yeah.
have to like put an end to the tax holiday and actually tax them so we can get more money.
Mhm.
We can retain the money that they are taking outside of the Caribbean. And so it's like that is one.
Yeah.
And also add a new tax, which is to put an environmental tax. So not only do they get to pay regular taxes, but put extra taxes because of
Mhm.
the environmental damage.
Yeah.
It has to. We have to have equity, some sort. If you are going to put a giant high rise all inclusive hotel, at least invest in the nature that you just damaged.
Yeah.
At least put like let the money go conservation or something that cleans up the pollution or
Mhm.
something of that sort where we get an environmental tax on the hotels.
Yeah.
So again, the first point is people in power that's benefiting from it,
Yeah.
meaning the government. The second point is the taxes, the tax issues.
Yeah.
Um, Fix it. It's a flawed system. Fix it immediately because it's still happening, and we have still in the future, from insider information, we are going to have many more hotels that are in line to
Mm.
buy land and do the exact same tax evasion
Yeah.
system that they're doing, like the same tactics. That's why they see Aruba as like a good exploitation part. So
Mhm.
taxes, people power. The third part is degrowth.
Yeah.
Degrowth. We have to start a process of degrowth. We cannot develop even more. We cannot. This is not developing. It's just growing. We
Mhm.
are not developing. It's not sustainable. What we need to do is like stop what we're doing and stop viewing tourism and money as a or GDP as the main source of prosperity and view social justice and environmental and ecological livelihood as new ways of prosperity. So degrowth. We have to stop what we're doing. We can't grow anymore. We just can't.
Yeah.
Aruba Tourism Authority released a report a couple years back saying we exceeded we exceeded the carrying capacity of Aruba.
Yeah.
The people that are getting a lot of tourists, the organization that runs the tourism system, they even mentioned we exceeded the carrying capacity of Aruba. We
Yeah.
cannot grow anymore.
Yeah.
So
That's
if they're
a big
saying it,
red flag. Yeah.
yes, yes. So if they're saying it that
Yeah.
we can't have any more hotels and tourism, if locals are saying we can't have any more hotels and tourism, if conservation experts and national parks are saying it, if if specialists in sustainability are saying it, if
Mhm.
people if people working minimum wage job, if everyone is saying it, what are we waiting for? Why aren't we stopping the growth process? Like who again,
Yeah.
the people that are in power are the ones that's continuing it. So it's really mixed up, and the degrowth process is just to our economy is stable as it is. It's believe it or not, things are expensive.
Mhm.
Yes, our cost of living is very expensive, and it's getting more expensive. But why is it getting more expensive? It's because we are putting more hotels,
Yeah.
more gentrification. Gentrification leads to rising costs of living. So it's like again, the cycle is continuing, and people don't know because they're like, no, more hotels means we're getting more money. Meanwhile, it's the exact opposite. So it's really that. It's really that sense of just listen to us. Like we cannot do it anymore. We cannot grow. We can't. It's impossible. Like
Yeah.
we are losing a lot. And the fourth one is, and it's a really important one, is give the land back. Land back is a movement that indigenous peoples have been fighting for
Mhm.
all around ex-colonial territories. So in Puerto Rico and in Borinquen, in Hawaii, in Fiji, different areas around the world are suffering the same things, and they're all islands, and they're suffering the same neo-colonialism system that they imposed onto us. They are going through the exact same thing, and they are also mentioning, give the land back. Do not come to the island anymore. We can't do it. It's overcapacity. It's
Yeah.
overdeveloped. We our livelihoods are being affected. Little do they know, like Aruba, the thing that made Aruba so marketable, so like that people want to go there is the nature.
Yeah.
Is the nature. The reason why people were like, and I could say the same for Bonaire. The reason why people want to go to Bonaire is because it's so beautiful. Like the nature there is so pristine.
Yeah.
But we're losing that. Our golden child. We're just losing it. Just our land. So just give it back. Give it back and understand like that we're taking too much. We gave them a finger, they're taking the whole arm.
Yeah.
We
More than
said,
an arm
"Hey,
by now, I would say.
exactly, exactly." We are saying, "Hey, you took you took the land to build your hotels,
Yeah.
so we can benefit from it. You know, we sacrificed a bit, but now we're sacrificing way too much. We're
Mhm.
giving too much. We can't give anymore. We need the land back. We need it for our next generation because again, remember when I mentioned the thing about the baseline that previous generation no hotels, the next generation low rise, the next generation high rise, my generation high rise all inclusive,
Mhm, mhm.
the next generation concrete,
Yeah.
concrete island, no nature, no
No
holes in
reefs
Aruba,
anymore,
no
no.
reefs,
Yeah,
pollution. Just I'm thinking about the next generation. Like I don't want to compromise the needs and livelihood of the next generation.
yeah,
And the way to not make them compromise it is to give the land back. I want them to have beaches to swim in. I want them to have like clean water. I want them to have fishes that they can eat at the ocean. I
yeah.
want them to have like a Aruba that doesn't have giant holes in the middle of like a hidden area. Like these type of things. Like
Mhm.
just give it back. Give it back. Like, and I know they won't give it back that easily. And
No, I'm without a fight, yeah.
that's why we are fighting. Like us as indigenous peoples, we are really striving for the land back because they're not going to hand it over that easily. The people that bought the hotels or bought their houses,
Yeah,
like usually rich investors that they bought their houses in front of the hotels, they're not going to give it back.
yeah,
Who wants to give up something so beautiful? Who wants to give up like a beach? Like you wake up in the morning, first thing you see is the beach.
yeah.
Your view is the sunset of the beach of Aruba. Who wants to give it away? Nobody, because it's so pretty. But they keep forgetting it's ours. It's ours. We gave you it for a reason because we thought it would benefit us, but it's not benefiting us anymore.
Mhm.
So if you give it back, if you give it the land back and just leave it as it is, we're restoring nature. We're not even like there's a step of conserving what we have, which we are currently doing. We're trying to conserve as much as we can.
Yeah,
But the next step is to restore.
yeah.
We're not restoring. We're really not restoring anymore because it's really hard because we're not getting the land back.
Mhm.
You know, we're not getting our mangroves back because they're all cut down. And that's a whole different thing as
Wow.
well. Like mangroves protect us. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
'cause
yeah.
what I remember, what I came to my mind now is in Bonaire, we have initiatives that are actively restoring mangrove and making sure that more is grown. They're
Yeah.
restoring the reefs because we know, as you mentioned, the baseline. I was talking to someone that was on the webinar that I
Hmm.
told you that I worked on Bonaire for some time, and he was telling me the baseline, but in terms of um, the the ecosystem of the water. So he said he took my father as an example, which was born in 1946. He would have seen the the waters around Bonaire, in his case Curacao, because that's where he comes from, with sharks. Just that it was normal to have a bunch of sharks and a bunch of reefs and a bunch of fish, and then by the time, let's say, my sisters came around, which is around 1980s, there would be significantly less sharks
Hmm.
and reefs, but that was their normal still. And then by the time I came around in the 90s, my normal still was like, wow, fishes, reefs, and then
Hmm.
now there's even less of that, and
Yeah.
that's like my niece
Yeah.
and my nephew, um, that there much less fishes and reefs
And
and
bleached corals as well,
these
probably.
corals. And the shocking thing for me is that I my baseline was every weekend we went to the beach, we were swimming, and then I was shocked that when I went back last December, I was there. And I wanted to swim. As you say, you want to relive that moment. You want to, like, if you're here in Europe the whole time, the first thing you want to do when you get back is swim.
Beach. Run. Beach.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I wanted to swim, and I went with my little nephew in the water, and he was scared because my sisters weren't taking them like to the beach as regular, and that didn't like
Yeah.
compute in my head, knowing from
Yeah.
how we grew up and how often we went to the beach. Just because the social fabric of the society changed so much since, let's say, the 2010 change in the constitution, that it became part of the Netherlands, and then a lot of Europeans came in, and other people from over different islands from the Caribbean, because Bonaire is suddenly like this kind of lucrative place to be and
Yeah.
work, and that changed so much, I think, that they don't really go out as much, and they don't really do the activities that we used to do um, when it was different when we were growing up. So yeah, it does have this social impact is really big.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of how what we can enjoy on our own islands, but also in terms of how we see ourselves and our
Yeah.
worth as a result. What are we and what we're entitled to in your case that you're talking about land.
Yeah.
It's the sense of entitlement to think you're gonna go into someone else's land and take their land and treat it poorly, and then when they ask it back, you're like, no, because
Mhm.
I'm profiting from it, whether it be economically or from a beautiful view, as you were saying. Uh,
Yeah.
and then the environmental impact that it's ironic to me
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that
It's
you don't realize that the very thing that's making you money, that you're ruining it, and
yeah.
when
Yeah.
that's ruined, what money are you gonna make? It doesn't
What else is happening? Like
how I don't
what are you doing?
I
Yeah.
don't get how that doesn't compute to people. And I did this training to become a climate coach. And one of the things that they were talking about is like flying and how polluting it is. And um, so you're trained to make people like think for themselves why they should maybe fly less, because
Mhm. Mhm.
yes, you're flying to beautiful places, but by flying to those beautiful places, you're contributing to the climate change, which will
Yeah.
in turn ruin those beautiful places. So,
Yeah. 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 It's like what are we doing? Like it's just open your eyes, look at the bigger picture, and
yeah.
the thing that you mentioned about the baseline about like going to the beaches and seeing those things, like it resonated with me a lot as well in terms of like 'cause I went to a specific beach in Aruba where there's sea turtles. There's actual sea turtles that go there.
Yeah.
And I went to snorkel. I was like, okay, I'm gonna see some sea turtles today. And then when I arrived at the beach, there's so many touristic boats, those
Mm,
party boats just
mm,
parked around very, very close to the shore, which, they eat the seagrass around there.
mhm.
And you see like those propellers, they're very dangerous.
Yeah.
So they could kill them and they have been killing them. And I went down there to see like if I could see any fishies and it was dead because of like the sound, the sound pollution, the
Mm,
pollution in general. It scared away the fishies. Like they probably said like, nah, Aruba became too dirty. I'm out. Like
yeah.
I'm going elsewhere. Like
Gonna swim to the
so
Bahamas or something. I
yeah,
don't
like
know. It's
let's
better.
see the other island because this
Yeah.
is not it. And to me it's just very alarming because again the next generation is gonna have that effect too. It's
Yeah.
they're gonna go through that same thing where they're gonna go to the beach and then you just see a bunch of boats. They're like, yeah, this is normal.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been like this.
Yeah.
Boats. Meanwhile, I saw turtles. And then before me there was like coral reefs. And before me there was like a whole giant ecosystem thriving. It's like like you said, we're losing what's making us money. And the thing is, the reason why it's like that is because the thing about people, planet, profit,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
It's typical business model, like
Yeah.
people, planet, profit. Which one? Okay, so they see it as like three bubbles that's like equally as big,
Yeah.
like economy, ecology, and social systems.
Yeah. I would argue they see economy a bit bigger than those other two, but
Very much. And that very much. And that is the issue because they see it as like economic growth is will be great. It's for prosperity. It's for the next generation. Meanwhile, in reality, the model is supposed to be ecological system is the
Mm,
bigger one. It's a
yeah.
nested system. It's the biggest one. We live in nature. We are nature. We are inside of that system.
Yeah.
So there's the ecological system, and then there's a small, there's a medium sized one, which is inside of it, which is the social systems. We are part of it.
Mm,
Culture happens there
yeah.
because of nature. Humans live. There's all these other social systems that happen inside the ecological system. And then there's a tiny small thing that's inside the social system. So it's like ecological,
Mm,
social, and the smallest one is economy
yeah.
because it's a system that people created,
Mm-hmm.
not the environment. The environment is just a bigger thing.
Yeah.
Social is like what's in it, everything that's social. And then there's a smaller one, which is a smaller system that were created by the social system, which is economy.
Mm,
People have to understand that we're putting so much attention and focus and efforts on that one small bit.
yeah.
Meanwhile, the rest of the big nested system is just
Collapsing
being
around it.
i- it's
Yeah.
just yes, right before our very eyes, and it's just it's sad to me that we lost touch with how we used to live,
Mm,
how we used to be one with nature, how we used to have a symbiotic relationship with nature
yeah.
and our ecosystems and just environment in general. Like we used to live with it very sustainably, but because of that one little thought in that social system, that one economic system,
Mm-hmm.
it just got messed up completely. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really complex issue to bring forward and to enlighten people, educate people about. But people sometimes just get stuck in the status quo and they're just a tiny cog in the system and
Mm,
they don't know what it is. So what we truly need is just systematic change,
yeah.
systematic change of how we view prosperity, how we view land, how we view people of power, how we view,
Yeah.
you know, the systems that we created. We just need systematic change and
Yeah.
it has to happen
Sooner.
very soon,
Yeah.
very, very soon because we don't have much time left. We are a very vulnerable group. We are an island that's not that big and we won't survive major catastrophes. We won't survive. Like it's a lot happening
Yeah.
and we just need systematic change and the right leaders
Mm.
do this. So it's a, whew, it's
It's a big
a,
task. Yeah, but I'm maybe I'm always a hopeful person.
very much.
Things can
Yeah.
happen. And I do hope and wish for the paradigm shift to come, where we see it again, as you explained, the ecology first, the social, and then economic as a result of those two things. And yeah, I'm gonna cut it here because I think we can talk about this the whole day.
Yeah. It's a whole day discussion that we could just
Yeah.
keep talking about it and paint out the system even more.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's understandable, but I hope, I gave some insight and
yeah.
painted the picture for a lot of people and what's happening
Thank you for
around
listening.
around
Yeah.
the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah,
definitely. And
I
and
really like the conversation, and again, yeah, like for me, we can have a follow up of this conversation another time.
definitely,
Um,
definitely.
and yeah, I agree with you on that. It has to be systemic change. We have to change our values, what we value, and we have to reconnect certain things because as you said now, I think it's like bubbles, like social bubble, economic bubble, and ecological bubble, but it's all interconnected.
Hmm.
And it's important that we start connecting them again and putting things in the right place, in the right um, sense of importance as well
Hmm.
around it. uh,
Definitely.
and yeah, I'm excited to see
where this goes, and what comes from the actions, and the result of your advocacy around this issue. And yeah, until next time on the Creation podcast.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it, and hopefully to keep this dialogue going and to keep advocating. So thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Just stopping the recording.